Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Stars of Franchising.
Get ready for a roller coaster ride through the world of franchising as we bring you the best stories of inspiration and entrepreneurial grit and turning dreams into franchise realities.
That's right, Vinny. From emerging to global brands, we'll chat with the genius minds behind the magic. All brought to you by the Tariq Farid Franchise Institute at Babson College. I'm Ab.
And I'm Vini. Now, buckle up for some serious inspiration.
So excited for our guest, Jonathan Epstein. Jonathan, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are as well. And we here at Babson, we always love to start our discussions when we're fortunate to have someone with your experience and background on tell us a little bit about your why and what caused you to do what you do. At least maybe you're to start with your franchise story, because I know you're doing some new and exciting things now. But tell us a little about your story with franchising and the why around it.
Sure, will do. And again, thanks for inviting me to help out on this podcast. I grew up with a father that was in the franchise business. He had, at one point, 37 Midas Muffler stores. So at a young age, I would spend weekends working in Midas stores, cleaning them, washing windows, putting away mufflers and brakes, and watched his business scale from one location to eventually 37 Midas stores. So I was very comfortable with the franchise model growing up, and after a number of different jobs after graduating college, I ended up coming back to Babson to get my MBA. And one of the partners at the firm that hired me approached me about starting our own business, and I had started 3 businesses from my ages 21 to 32. And we ended up in the health club space with our own branded company called Core Fitness. And it had kept our eye on Planet Fitness when they got on our radar when they had about 8 or 10 locations. Wow. And we approached them when they had about 40 locations and have been franchisees for the past 14 years. So, for me, franchising was just a natural extension of being an entrepreneur, and gave you the framework to, scale quickly if that was the appetite, what you wanted to do.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan, if you could describe what, in your opinion, are things that people misunderstood the most about franchising.
I'm sorry, that what,
what
is not understood? Or
what do you think people misunderstand the most about franchising?
It's interesting because I think a lot of people who are looking from the outside in think that franchising gives you the complete roadmap to success, when really all it does is give you a light framework and some tools to be able to make decisions about purchasing, for the retail space, how it will be laid out. But you are running your own operation day to day, and there aren't you have to make your own decisions just as if you had your own business. I think, Planet Fitness, there's over 2,500 locations in the United States now, and there's 11 groups with over 75 clubs, our group included. And all of these people either came from outside of the franchise world running their own business or from corporate finance. So franchising is not a guarantee for success, and franchise owners are their own business owners. I've heard it said before, well, you're not really running your own business, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Then, Jonathan, does that mean when you say you get a framework, does that make a franchisee or a franchisor less of an entrepreneur?
In my opinion, I think franchising is even more entrepreneurial, because sometimes when you're given that framework, you think you're boxed in, and you have to follow to a T all the steps on a roadmap to success, when, quite frankly, looking at any of the larger franchises out in the retail space or the service space, all of the great ideas that you're seeing that customers are experiencing come from the franchisees who are looking to grow their businesses. I'll give you an example. Planet Fitness, the Black Card, which is one of our 2 memberships, came from a franchisee.
Right.
The Black Card Spa, all that development came from franchisees. A good franchise group will push the franchisor to develop the brand because they're on the ground day to day with their customers.
Yeah, I mean that's so fascinating and music to our ears that you said that, because much like other brands, the Munchkin for Dunkin', the Egg McMuffin, you're right, Jonathan, that's the franchisee, and you do have to be entrepreneurial. So love hearing that, and from someone who was to build on that, from someone who was in the Planet Fitness system relatively early. Can you talk about some of that early innovation and maybe a few failures either that you had or you saw and what you learned from them, and then maybe what being as part of the franchise helped you either navigate or hindered you?
All right, so let's try to chop this up into some smaller segments. Early on, Planet Fitness, the history of Planet Fitness, which you can read about, the original founders who have since sold and now the company is publicly traded, had developed the $10 a month business model as a means for survival when another gym opened up within 0.3 of a mile from a club up in New Hampshire, and they were having their lunch eaten. And essentially, they didn't have the money to invest in CapEx to be able to out-gym, if you will, out-equipment the new competitors. So what they did was they dropped their price. And no one had ever gone to a $10 a month price point. That was, in essence, the beginning of developing the franchise model for what Planet Fitness became. So, when you look at the day-to-day, that was the idea that sparked the whole conceptualization, if you will, of Planet Fitness. Now, I'm sorry, I have the three-part question. I want to make sure I answer everything in order.
Yeah, no, that's great. The second part was what, along that growth of the brand, what failures, have you seen or did you experience? And,
how much time do we have for this podcast?
well, I know there's only one. I know you didn't have many because how successful you are, but maybe the top one or two.
All right, okay, I can give you a few. So, as a franchisee, one of the hardest things is when your franchisor is developing in-house computer systems. So as a corporate entity, and this has been fairly well documented outside of Planet Fitness, they tried to develop at one time a POS system called Visionary. Now, point of sale, POS is supposed to mean point of sale. It turned out to mean something very different for the 1,000-plus clubs at the time, where we actually could not bill because the system wouldn't connect. So, on a larger scale level, that was one of the failures that we had to deal with. On a smaller level, I think one of the biggest failures that we were into, or roadblocks continually, is not understanding how each different market has subtle nuances when you're going in with a new club. And I'll say early now they have the people in data analysis to be able to really give you more information to make smarter business decisions. But 8 or 10 years ago, you would try to model a market for a new club against maybe 8 or 10 clubs that you owned. And see what types of tactics would work, how big the club should be built out, what types of signage you should use based on what had been successful, and then develop your forecast based on what you thought the club would ramp up to as a comparison to another existing club. And I would be lying to you if I said we have a foolproof model. So when we open a new club, I can forecast within 8 or 10%. Mm-hmm. Some clubs ramp very slowly, and over time the momentum builds. And some clubs, we had a club in Worcester that we were having people driving in, listening to the radio and signing up curbside 3 weeks before the club opened. So you try to take in all the variables and look at what affects a pre-sale and an opening of a club. Mm-hmm. But inevitably, you have to be ready for how you can change your strategy if you're not hitting your numbers when you're trying to ramp a club. My business partner is also a Babson alum, said you only have one chance to have a pre-sale and a grand opening. Yeah. And we put so much effort and monies into building that energy to get the club on the map. Even now that we're, so well branded, you just have to make a lot of noise in the market and look at all the different levers you can pull to get people to take a chance to come in and see your club. Because inevitably, Planet Fitness, a lot of people look at the $10 price point and assume what they're going to see is a $10 a month gym, and that's completely the opposite.
Right.
Most groups, ourselves included, way overbuild our clubs. Our locker rooms, I would put against the Equinox, Lifetime Fitness. We want people to be overwhelmed and not be able to understand how we can make money in this business.
Right.
Because we overspend and build out the club. We want them to be wowed.
And I think that it's an interesting point because Planet led the way in creating the category, as you know it better than I do, Jonathan. They refer to it as within the gyms, HVLP, high value, low price, and not $40 in the $40 a month with not a great club. So that's a lot of innovation right there in itself for what does your customer really need and want. So great example.
Right, and it's interesting you say that, Ab, because in the HVLP model, there are competitors of ours that do cut corners, and a lot of times that hurts the whole business segment because the number one way we get members is from existing members. It's customer referrals. We track that a number of ways. And we have to make sure from the delivery system of our employees, every touch point, everything in the club, that people are completely overwhelmed with how well the club looks, how great the equipment works, the availability of free group fitness training, the Black Card Spa. That attention to detail, we can drop into other towns and cities where there are competitors that may not be as well established or maybe entrenched, but we've shopped them, we've seen what they can do, and we can go make our mark very quickly. But it takes a team effort. On our level at Core Development Management, we have our own strategy of how we want people to think about fitness and how we deliver it to our members. And we're constantly hammering home our value set to our new hires and our existing hires, because if something's incongruent with our goals as a Planet Fitness franchisee, it becomes very evident when we're secret shopping a club, when we're doing a quarterly review, because, again, we want people to sit down having a coffee in the morning or, at a dinner with their friends, and they mention Planet Fitness, and people will say, well, what do you think? It's $10 a month. And the story that they're going to tell is about our commitment to, overshooting the bar, to making sure that everything exceeds expectations. And that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of buy-in from our employees.
Jonathan, when we're going to remain on this question a bit. I'm going to expand on it by asking you to sort of outline what successful franchisees do, and also you flip it, and also tell us the top things that successful franchisors do.
Okay. Yep. Well, the first thing I would say, to be a successful franchisee, you need to be able to have a network of franchisees that will share ideas and be available to one another. And one of the things that I'm most grateful for about the franchise network of Planet Fitness there are people that are always available if you have a question. I can remember going to my first franchisee conference at the Hard Rock Cafe in Fort Lauderdale 11 years ago. The largest franchisee was named Joe Pepe. He had 11 clubs in Connecticut, which seemed, like a huge number, and they were all converted world gyms. So the meeting was about 2 hours, the whole weekend meeting, and the rest of it was, getting together with different people and having a dinner and a breakfast. And I got to sit with Joe Pepe for 4 hours and talk to him about what our pre-sale is going to look like. What do you suggest? Should we use outdoor media? At the time, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok weren't really in the mix. So what are the response rate you see? What's your average pre-sale investment like? When do you re-equip cardio and strength? Tell me about who you're using for vendors for the interior of the club. So that network, that cooperative sharing of information is extremely critical. And we happened to get in when there was a good base of 8 or 10 franchisees that had 3 or more locations. On the franchisor level, it's interesting because the franchisor, obviously they're looking to grow as a publicly traded company. They have a responsibility to their shareholders. But, our franchisor gets out in the fields quite a bit to really look at new clubs that are in pre-sale, that have been open, that are mature. They try to look at the time horizon of a lot of different clubs geographically, a lot of different ownership groups, and then present best practice, but also give suggestions about what will work. Planet Fitness has a wonderful library of information you can access when you have different things going on in your business life cycle, to have that knowledge base available to you. And also they provide a weekly newsletter that updates you on certain things that are going on, because at this point, Massachusetts is such a competitive environment. So for a group like ours, where most of the A market locations are taken, we're looking at B market and trying to go with a smaller facility and trying to manage our expenses to make sure our clubs can be as profitable as possible. And that information is what the franchisor has been able to do very well in the last 3 years, is be able to mine that data and give it back to you and show you, literally, it could be 8 clubs across the U.S. and give you examples of where you need to be or what you need to do if you're going into a market, because these are examples of other clubs that were successful. Now, when it didn't exist 8 or 10, 12 years ago, that's when we were boots on the ground looking at everything to get people to come and experience our club. Now the data's there, but you still need to have at least someone from corporate that understands the market, or go and learn the market on your own and talk to other businesses, which we do quite a bit of. I've been in locations where I've been 2 weeks in a town or city, networking through the Chamber of Commerce, talking to big, independent business owners, and really finding out what drives that economy, within a smaller town or city, because they all have their own nuances, and you have to. If you overlook that, you're going to fail.
Wow, that's fascinating, and you point to a little bit about the power of that network, Jonathan, and how it can help you as a franchisee, and also the franchisor, participating in that network. Can you talk a little bit about the, say, selection process for someone considering franchising? We teach in our course, the value a lot about, that network and evaluating it. Can you talk about how you'd go about it if you were entering it again, or how someone should about evaluating a franchisor? Did you talk to franchisees? Should they?
Sure.
What should they look for? Because,
Sure.
There's a lot of good stories and bad out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, a lot of Planet Fitness franchisees that have experienced tremendous success now are in second or third franchise businesses that may or may not be related to Planet Fitness, but are in the health and wellness space to some degree. So when you're looking at a franchise business, from my perspective, the most important thing before you really start to delve in is to understand why you're looking at a franchise business and what your energy is about that relationship. I talk to people at work, sometimes in very gray ways, but I emote and say, what you do on a daily basis has to raise your energy.
Right.
You have to, be mindful of what's going to get you out every day and put you into that extra gear, because you love what you're doing and you're making an impact. Because at the end of the day, a successful business person, franchise or not, you can say they have to love what they do, but you have to get that visceral response from the creation and the maintenance of your dream as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And, Planet Fitness, sure, there are many days where I feel like I'm going through the same steps over and over again. But I know, because I'm in clubs, I work out, we're changing lives.
Yeah.
We are absolutely 100% changing lives. And that's very powerful. And to get that 90% of the population, or that 88% of the population that won't go to a gym to come into a Planet Fitness, is incredibly rewarding on a personal level. When you look at a franchise business, if you grew up in a food service business, you might have had a family member in Dunkin' Donuts, or that's what interests you. There are so many opportunities. I would absolutely 100% spend the money going to visit 4 or 5.
Yep.
And if it's a new franchise concept, go visit, as many locations as you can afford to. Find out who these people are. What are the commonalities that they have, that together to create the story of why they were drawn to that brand. Because at the end of the day, the people that you connect with and that are going to be your mentors, their passion is going to raise your energy to be as successful as you possibly can. And the people that mentored me early on in Planet Fitness, those are the people I still, credit with a lot of my success because they were always available. I called someone on Christmas Eve at 9 o'clock with a question because we had a major issue going on at some of our clubs, and the person walked out of a party. We spent 5 minutes on the phone. I wrote down, as many notes as I could grab, call my business partners. We talked to every manager, and we hit the ground running the next day. But it's the belief in what you're providing.
Jonathan, what is one lesson that franchising has taught you that you think everybody should know? Wow,
there's so many. Okay.
The top ones in that case.
Okay. First things first, I would say that to be a successful franchisee, you have to understand how to build teams that can support your vision.
Yeah.
You have to understand how to be flexible in your vision so people take ownership in the goals that you set forth. We are constantly adjusting. We'll give out quarterly reports, letting everyone know the state of our business, but making sure people are continually buying in. Because at the end of the day, one club, we're 67 locations now.
Wow.
That responsibility and passion for what we're trying to achieve has to go down to the managers of the club. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say I wanted every staff member to have that as well. But the chain of command, that area supervisor, that regional manager has to walk the walk and talk the talk that we espouse every day. Because when the staff sees what they're doing, I'll give you a perfect case in point. I used to walk into clubs all the time if I was driving home with my kids from a sporting event. I knew one of our clubs was nearby, and I'd drop them off to get some food, and I'd walk in for 15 minutes and dump the garbage pails or, clean up something to say, what can I do for 5 minutes? And they're like, who are you? And I'd say, I'm one of the owners. I'm Jonathan. You might have heard my name. I've been in the club a bunch of times, but I want to help out because, you have to invest in your people and you have to make yourself available to help them. Because at the end of the day, that, for me, my essence, if you will, is energized by helping others, by, making sure that we can create infinite possibilities for other people because they believe in the brand and they believe in our mission. I know that might sound a little nebulous, but it's the truth because successful people imbue other people with the belief that anything is possible. And that's what we try to do.
Well, that's powerful because it points to just being in your stores, right? And not just being in stores, but being engaged and leading by example. We've heard that from others, and letting people know, your employees, that one, they're important, but two, there's a pathway for them. It sounds like your employees, have you had some that have been there that have started at the front desk and are, regionals now? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So we have, so I love to tell these stories. Thank you for asking that. Our COO was in between jobs and started as a front desk person at one of our clubs in Worcester. He's in his mid-30s, bought his own home. He's incredibly successful, didn't graduate college, and just has taken on every single new project we gave him and stood in his greatness because he had the support of a team. The other day I was at our old office, which is above one of our warehouses for our equipment, and I was sitting with two of our area directors. And our top area director oversees 32 clubs, had left Arizona because his family's business, which was a concrete business, was failing. He knew he wasn't going to stay there for the to see what happened. His brother took over the business. He came back home to stay with a friend for a month to see if he could find a job, and he got a job at one of our clubs as an evening closer. So he was there only at night. He ran into one of my business partners who was coming home from somewhere, walked in for half an hour. They ended up chatting, and now he's an area director 10 years later. So, we always try to hire from within, because those people that are able to see that career path, we'll constantly tell them, these are our success stories. These people started on the ground, being $6, $10, $12 a month. And that opportunity is there if you want it. And I believe that to this day. I think the most successful organizations, be them business, sports, are people that the system. We talk, what is the system? How are we going to create greatness? And that is very powerful. Even if you look, someone that tried to, we ended up selling a few years ago to a private equity group and have grown from 20 clubs to now over 60 with their help. And one of the groups that was trying to buy us, a family managed fund, the biggest holding they had was 65 Taco Bells. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there listening to this story about how they went in and bought these. And he looked at me and he said, if I showed you the metrics for the southeastern part of the United States and how big Taco Bell is and how well this franchisee ran his group, you would have pulled the money and tried to buy it. But you do have those great owners that are always available, that promote from within, that walk the walk. And, when it's part of who you are, it's really easy because there's no artistry. It's just basically who you are. It's what my greatest successors are the ones where I see other people outshine what we believe they could do because we gave them the tools to do it.
Wow.
Well, that one of the things, and if I may, Vinny, then I'll turn it back to you, is, that leads me to this discussion topic around social impact, access for many. We're seeing an intersection of franchising that because of what you've described a few times today, Jonathan, the community focus, knowing it from on the ground. But can you talk about how important or that topic is and how you see these opportunities for people?
So I would love to do that. So let's talk about social impact for a minute. Several years ago, Planet Fitness decided to hang their hat on the Boys and Girls Club and getting very involved with the Boys and Girls Clubs. So for my group, it resonated 110% because my business partner, who's the CEO of our company, not only grew up at the Boys and Girls Club in Nashua, New Hampshire, but he was able to, because of the swim program in the Boys and Girls Club, get a scholarship to UNH because of his swimming.
Wow.
And that was able to get him his first job. So when we're involved with the Boys and Girls Club on the ground, developing and building these smaller Planet Fitness gyms for these kids, that the Boys and Girls Club is an integral part of their day-to-day survival. We built a club in Lowell. Built a club. When I say built a club, we built a mini judgment-free zone. So it might be a 4,000 to 8,000 square foot gym where we donate all the equipment. We'll put it in the rubber floor. We'll paint it. And this has such a huge impact on these communities. I took my father, who's 86 now, to two of these mini judgment-free zone openings. And to see the look on these kids' eyes when you give them a state-of-the-art gym, now be it smaller, where they can go after school to play basketball, to work out for 45 minutes on the weekends, and they can go somewhere where there's actually functional equipment, is just incredibly rewarding. But it's what is the right thing to do. I was very pessimistic about some of these larger corporations that would come out with these bold statements of this is who we are, and this is how we're going to impact the community. For us, it was very natural. I'm glad Planet Fitness chose the Boys and Girls Clubs. And I didn't have any experience with them. I grew up in the North Shore, in a small community by the ocean, and there wasn't a Boys and Girls Club. There was a YMCA, and it was falling apart. But these organizations are affecting people's lives, and be able to do that. So, a young kid or even someone older can, when they go in the afternoon for an hour and a half to maybe just meet someone or go to, see someone speaking or talk about redoing your resume, they can use the gym.
Mm-hmm. And that plays well for...
And it's Go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like what you're saying too, and you were seeing it is because the franchise model has franchisees who are from the community and tied to the community, it's a nice model for that connection. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. And now, Planet Fitness has been focused after the pandemic on mental health. Yep. And I've been pushing with corporate and Mass General to work on a mental wellness initiative because we all know that the benefits of exercising and how that can impact your mental state. But we're really trying to bring that to the forefront so people that are coming in and can understand it, but also to make it available for the medical community so they understand with their patients or people coming in, look outside just the treatment once a week of, if you're you're having a telehealth meeting or sitting with someone about how exercise can impact people. Because at the end of the day, the greatest thing Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, because at the end of the day, the greatest thing about this business model and what we're trying to do is we're changing people's lives. That might be a few steps every week. It could be in a year, a major transformation, but we're giving them the tools to change their life. And that can be weight loss. It doesn't have to be weight loss. That can be improved energy. Doesn't have to only be improved energy. That can be giving them the mental boost because they're seeing that they're committing to 2-3 days a week or more, that they can follow a schedule. Because the number one excuse is you don't have enough time. And like anything, as an educator, you're pulled in a million different directions. But you have to make the time for the things that will make you more effective. And we believe we're a tool to make you more effective.
Jonathan, you mentioned mental health, and then partly because also of the pandemic, the lockdown. Was there any big innovation during the pandemic, big innovation in franchising that you think is going to change the future of franchising?
Do you want me to speak from my experience?
Yes, please.
So, during the pandemic, Planet Fitness was fantastic in developing videos that were available for free. So people could work out from home, so they were 1 or 2 times a day. And then as they developed the app, going away from a key tag where you would just swipe, having that information on your phone with a QR code for your membership, but being able to track your workouts, but also being able to get in a network of other members and talk about what types of experiences you're having and how to develop a roadmap for success. So I think it's that community that came out of a technological need post-pandemic. People were afraid to interact and actually pull out their key tag with their mask on at the front desk because they didn't know if the person at the front desk with a mask could transmit COVID to them. So we developed a touchless use of our phone with an app. You could check in as you were coming in, so you didn't have to stand in front of someone. But that information, now there's a real network because I can go on and, we're doing something with Amazon in another couple of months. So all the partnerships we have with national retailers so people can get discounts, that's fed right to your app. So if there's a new workout that's available or a club gets new equipment or we're opening up a new club and you might live in Marlboro but work in Newburyport, well, there are 2. There's one in Newburyport. There's one closer to work. To be able to tell you if you want to go over there and it sees that it's tracked you and you allow it to track you, it'll say there's a Planet Fitness 0.2 mile from your office if you want to work out here.
Wow,
that's great stuff.
Which is great because.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say back to that excuse. I don't have enough time.
Right.
Massachusetts, where Planet Fitness is their second largest market as far as number of clubs. So there's no excuse. We have people that come here only on the weekends where our corporate office is, and they have 2 or 3 options where they can go and just keep their gym bag in their car. It's just you have to make the time to fit it in, just like with everything else that you have that's a priority.
Becomes a part of your life and your lifestyle, and I love the passion around giving people the tools to change their lives. So kudos to you. Well, one last question before we ask you for some closing thoughts. You've seen a lot of change, Jonathan. You've made change and innovation, and not to speak for you, but it sounds like you're bullish on franchising overall in the right situations. How about a little bit of looking forward to either a current trend that'll most shape the future of franchising, or maybe how franchising in your mind can help scale, some new trends or opportunities for the future?
Sure. Looking at franchising now in the United States, Planet Fitness is at a turning point in many ways because they're developing smaller markets. A lot of the big markets have changed, have become well gymmed, if you will. They're, we're in a lot of these locations saturated. Looking at what the membership needs additionally to just fitness, and they've, we went back in the podcast. We talked about early on failures. One of them I forgot or wanted to forget was they tried barbershops, to have haircuts. Didn't work for a lot of reasons. But as the brand evolves and we stay true to our core offering, wellness does not necessarily have to mean just exercise. Yeah. Wellness can mean meditation, and we're testing these meditation pods. Additional things that when you come in, if you're there 20 minutes and you could use a Black Card Spa for a hydro massage and just relax. You could use additional amenities, so it just becomes more of a hub of wellness. Because at the end of the day, if you walk into a gym that's just free weights and a few treadmills, the consumer that's purchasing that is vastly different than what happens inside of a Planet Fitness.
Wow.
So it's testing those things to be able to see how you can differentiate and then add to the offering that will resonate with the consumer. And then the second part of the question, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember, was talking about scale or...
Yeah, I think you answered it. I was just if there was anything that any applications that the ability to scale via franchising in the future could provide. But it sounds like you identified.
Yeah. So looking from the inside out, it would be great if some of the and I imagine this is happening. Is that some of the franchise models that are coming out where there is an opportunity to scale helps entrepreneurs understand that and scale as quickly as they have the appetite for. Yeah. I won't name the person or the area, but there is a very well-known Planet Fitness franchisee who came from the private equity world, and this gentleman bought a demographic area that was one of the biggest in and around one of the biggest cities in the United States. And when I heard what he was doing, I said, "Wow, that's very aggressive." But he had come from a totally different world, understood exactly how to build it, spent 2 years planning everything, and literally put up 25 clubs in a densely populated suburban market within 2.5 years.
Wow.
It just seemed incredibly hard to do. And I think there are people out there that have that appetite that are coming from a completely different business or a different, experience for their vocation and see the opportunity, because I can't tell you how many times people would ask me, 9-10 years ago, "So what business are you in?" And I'd say Planet Fitness, and it didn't register. Or, "Oh, you're in the gym business." And then Planet Fitness started to do their New Year's Rockin' Eves and their ball drops, and you started to see more ads. And then all of a sudden people said, "So Planet Fitness, how many clubs do you have?" And I'd tell them how many clubs I had. And then, the next summer would roll by and someone would say, "Hey, I joined one of your clubs. Oh, do you own this one?" "Yeah, we own that one." And then, now I literally, when I go into a couple of places in Boston where you can valet your car and put the keys, you can see 60 sets of keys hanging there, and you'll see 15 Planet Fitness tags.
That's great.
And these are people that could easily afford to go to a much more expensive club, but they know the value of it, and the brand resonates with them because it becomes part of what you do. Now, I would be lying if I said that the only gym membership I have is a Planet Fitness one. That's not the case. But I use Planet Fitness twice a week on average, and then go somewhere else a couple of days a week because it depends on where I am.
Yeah.
But when it's $10 a month, why not?
Yeah.
And obviously for me, I know one of the owners, so I'm getting it a little cheaper.
Just a little
but my point is that a franchise that if I were looking from the outside in, I would look to the people that developed it and where they came from.
Yeah.
To understand why they're creating that concept.
Yeah.
There's a couple of concepts where I've gone to different restaurants or food service businesses and literally talked to the owner and said, tell me about your plans.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do? Well, they look at me like I have 3 heads. And I said, because everything you're doing, your service delivery system, the way the store is set up, you could franchise this.
Yeah.
Wow. Jonathan, one last
Put a
question.
different lens on.
So one last question. When you look back, is there something you would do differently? If so, what would that be?
Again, this might be a little bit of a soft answer, but I would have tried to live a more balanced lifestyle. Growing up with a father that was a franchisee and had a voracious appetite for growth, I never shut off my work focus at all. I could be at a kid's soccer game in 2nd grade and be walking to the end of the field on my phone, and then after the game having to leave for 20 minutes because I knew something wasn't right at a club and I just had to get involved. And my God bless my wife for letting me be that type of entrepreneur. But I look back today, and I gave a speech when I retired a couple of years ago, or formally left the company, although I'm still involved peripherally, and talked about that because I said, I will never get those years back. I will never get those moments back. And I thought this was the way to run a business because I had seen my father do that. But that's not the case. This journey that we're on as human beings, you have to be able to take some time to just slow down, enjoy what's around you. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you have another passion, and live a more balanced lifestyle. Because I kept saying, someday I'll be able to enjoy all these things. And you know what? Your kids don't get younger when you finish. You get to a level of success, you're not going to be able to relive those memories. And I was distracted. I was so hyper-focused on growth. And it wasn't because of the rewards that would come financially. It was because once I knew that I could achieve that and could, attain this dream we started when we had one club years ago, I just put a chokehold on it. This is what I'm going to do. And I just couldn't, I learned to take my foot off the gas. But, when you have a car or a business with an engine that will go, 800 horsepower, you want to hear it roar. And that's the way we were for a long period of time. And I regret it. My relationships with my kids now are so much better because I've been able to spend the time and be able to listen.
Good. Wow.
All I heard was purple and yellow and Planet Fitness in my, when I dreamed, everything was work.
Was everyone's bedroom purple?
Yeah, and I don't regret it. But
the house painted
purple. I'm in a room right now. I hate to say it. That's purple and yellow, and I hated those colors when we started.
True brand ambassador.
Because I'm a Celtics fan, and the Lakers. Well, I'm a Celtics fan, and I'm looking at Lakers. All I see is Magic Johnson when I walk into the club.
Right. Oh, that's great. What a pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you so much to take time out of your day. Kudos to you. And as here at Babson, you're a great story of an alum who's done amazing things. But what I took away from today, Vinny, I'm sure you agree, is just a lot of life lessons around leadership, entrepreneurship, passion, knowing your customer and community. So thank you for being a part of the Entrepreneurship, Franchising, and Scaling podcast. We hope to have you back on campus soon. And if we can do anything to help you on your journey, let us know.
I will, Ab, and I just want to leave you with one thought because, I say this with with love about Babson. It changed my life. Changed my life. Everything, when I walked into that school and was ready to decide that I knew I needed new tools to get into a new business because I was ready to start something and I didn't have all the tools.
Right.
I got absolutely everything I needed, and it was there, and I put myself out there, and I wasn't afraid. And I have such love for that school.
Wow.
It's an amazing, amazing place.
Well, I know that you bleed green now too. All those years, even though it may not be the purple, but you're a case in point for leading with action and having an entrepreneurial mindset. So we thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
What a way to.
Thank you so much.
What an expression of love for the school. That you just expressed. It's no better way to end this. We're very lucky and very, very glad to have people like you, ambassadors of this institution, making this institution even greater. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jonathan.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right, you guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
You too.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Stars of Franchising.
Stars of Franchising was produced at Babson College, engineered by Travis Gray. Karen Soa is our guest coordinator, and music by Ralph Taylor.
If you like Stars of Franchising, be sure to review us wherever you get your podcasts and spread the word and share these stories any way you can.